Well, hello everyone. Today's a great training. So let me ask you a question. Are you one of those people that has to knock on the door of many offices, trying to find a doctor, going from door to door, trying to just find one doctor that is open-minded, that will look at you, listen to you, hear you, believe that you have chronic EBV and work on it with you? Surprisingly, it is very hard to find a physician like that. It is a big challenge for our community, and people sometimes really go in circles. It's like a revolving door from doctor to doctor. It's very demoralizing, to say the least, and frustrating. So, this is a training today. I'm going to go over the most common pitfalls that people with chronic EBV go through trying to find a doctor, and then I'm going to give you a map of how to avoid those pitfalls and how to actually land a wonderful doctor to have in your corner. My name is Dr. Kasia Kynes. I'm CEO and founder of EBV Global Institute, and we help people just like you completely recover from EBV and live their life fully just like they desired. All right, let's go over a typical scenario. I'm going to map it out. I'm going to look at my notes a little bit so I don't forget something. So, the first frustration that I see commonly is involves time, energy, and money. So, three commodities that are really precious for people with chronic EBV. The time, the longer you have this virus, the longer you wait, the more damage internally. Energy, you don't have energy. You are really fatigued, and getting yourself to a doctor and traveling and sometimes having to rely on a ride from a spouse or a loved one because you can't drive, you're too fatigued, too sick. That is complicated. And then money lost. People drain thousands of dollars going from therapy to therapy and doctor to doctor. And so it may be years of this process. Sometimes people say 30 years I've been trying to find a doctor and the right therapy. So it is really important to compress time and be strategic and, map it out and go for it. So this is what we're going to talk about. Um, so let's start with a scenario where you think you found a nice doctor. It looks promising. Maybe the website is great and you're reading and you're getting excited and inspired. Or maybe it's by word of mouth. Somebody recommended this doctor. You set the first initial appointment. And the challenge with this is that maybe it takes 2, 3 months to have that first appointment, or maybe it's a very popular doctor and you have to be on a waiting list, and maybe up to 6 months that you're sitting and waiting. That's not good enough, because then the longer you wait, the higher expectation and hope you have. And then when you meet the doctor first time, finally, after all this time, maybe they come short of your expectation. Maybe they cut the consult short. Maybe they don't have the answers. Maybe the personality is mismatched with you and you feel deflated. And it's really frustrating when you put your energy and your focus and your hope, and then you don't get much out of it. So let's see if you see the new doctor. Let's walk through a possible scenario. There are four common scenarios with a new doctor that you will have. First of all, they will want to test you for EBV. And so the number one scenario, which is very common in medical practice, is that the doctor will refuse to test. Why do they refuse to test? Let me explain. The common training that they have um, will basically tell them EBV is just mononucleosis, so the acute version of it. There's really little recognition. They don't have that training of EBV as a chronic condition. So let's say you come and you say you have chronic EBV, they're going to say you're not presenting with acute mono. There's nothing, the chronic EBV doesn't exist. I'm not familiar with it. There's no reason for me to test. And if I even tested your EBV, there's really no solution. You go home when you have mono and you rest. Or the other scenario is I would put you on a prescription medication that is antiviral. This is what the options that this is the options that they will have. And so sometimes doctors are just not willing to test because they think there's nothing to do. Why bother testing? It's probably not EBV, it's all in your head. The second scenario is the doctor will say, okay, let's test, and they will test PCR. Let me explain why this is not the good idea. PCR breeds false negatives for people with chronic EBV, and these are medical studies. So if the doctor uses PCR, it's a red flag for you to be aware that they actually don't understand EBV. They don't have the training. PCR is not recommended. It's not going to show it unless you have mono and it's acute right now. The third scenario is when your doctor will say, okay, let's test EBV. They're going to pull the requisition form and they will fill out the form for the EBV panel. Send it off, you get blood drawn, and it sounds great. However, the panel typically may not include the fourth marker. So there are 4 antibodies that you need to test. And sometimes the big labs only use 3 and they skip early antigen. You literally have to add early antigen IgG marker as a separate add-on. Why it's set up so, I have no idea. But then, you wait for the second appointment, you wait for the lab result to come, you have to schedule it, you have to come and you have to pay again to the doctor. You sit down, they show you the markers, there's 3 of them. And honestly, the physician should not be able to diagnose EBV as being present or absent based on 3 markers that do not include early antigen IgG. That the diagnosis should not be possible based on that scenario. You really can't diagnose a person without early antigen. And the doctors are not aware of it. So they may misdiagnose you and tell you this is all in the past. And we're going to talk about that a little later. Number 4 scenario. The doctor will be aware, or maybe you will tell the doctor that early antigen, can we please make sure that the lab includes that? And they can add on, to the requisition form, let's add early antigen. That's fine. That's a great doctor right there. And then the lab report comes and they still didn't include it, even though the doctor requested it. It happens. It happens sometimes. And the best scenario is that all is done, all 4 are included, and all 4 are being analyzed by the doctor as you're sitting together for the follow-up appointment. Well, what's the solution to the potential pitfalls here? I'll tell you right away. You can save so much energy. You can actually save a lot of money, energy, unnecessary driving, unnecessary energy expenditure, and stress, and time by using something called direct-to-consumer lab. Direct-to-consumer labs exist. People don't realize this. You don't need a medical doctor. You don't need a script. You don't need to pay for a visit. As a consumer, you have the right to do blood work. There's labs. We have one on our website, ebvhelp.com. So you can visit and see. We have that for those people that do not have access to doctors. I need you to be aware of it. The beautiful part of it is you order the lab online, you pay online, you walk into a local lab and you draw blood and you get the report black and white with the panel that you need about 48 hours later. Right there. You can print it out. It's black and white. You can take it to a doctor. You don't have to wait for the doctor. You definitely don't want to wait 3 months for the first appointment. You don't want to risk 3 markers. You don't want to be in that scenario, one of the 4 scenarios, okay? Because it's just a waste of your energy, time, and money. Now, I'm going to tell you one more thing. What do you get when you sit down with a doctor and they look at the lab? Let's say we have all 4 markers. So you have a full panel. They look at this panel, and I can guarantee you 95% of the time when they look at the lab results, this is exactly what the doctor will tell you. You had past infection. You do not have EBV reactivation right now. So go home. We're doing other things. Whatever you're struggling is has nothing to do with EBV. I have to repeat it. Most of the time, looking at the labs, the way they train, the way they understand the labs, they'll tell you it has nothing to do with EBV. And this is why, let me clarify. Early antigen, as I said, is the most important marker. And if we have vast explanation and details on it on our website, ebvhelp.com. There's a big chapter in my book, so you can educate yourself, and you really should. Uh, the training for pathogens is that IgM markers, IgM antibodies reflect current infection, and IgG reflect past infection. That is standard education. It doesn't work with EBV, unfortunately, and unless you actually take the extra step to look at medical literature and educate yourself, you're going to follow that path. Early antigen is IgG. And therefore, the doctor will assume, rightly so, that it is past infection. VCA IgM is the only IgM in the panel. And so you would assume if it's elevated, you have reactivation. If it's normal, you don't. It doesn't work this way with EBV, okay? It's not that clean cut, black and white. So 99% of people with chronic active EBV will present with normal VCA IgM. And so any doctor that doesn't understand EBV and has just basic training will tell you, well, your IgM is normal. You don't have current infection. And then your early antigen can be elevated. That's the most important marker of current reactivation. But it's not IgM, it's IgG. Okay, if it's confusing to you, imagine how confusing it is to the doctor. And so this is what happens then. The doctor says that's not EBV. Your lupus, your rheumatoid arthritis, your juvenile rheumatoid arthritis in your kid, you know, your Hashimoto's, Sjogren's, all kinds of conditions, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, that is completely not related to EBV. In this scenario, you're going to get on a path of therapeutic diets, different protocols, detox protocols. You know, you probably have adrenal dysfunction or adrenal insufficiency comes with chronic EBV, but the doctor will run tests. You're going to pay for adrenal tests, cortisol tests, and they will show that it's dysregulated. So the doctor will put you on adrenal recovery protocol. But they're missing the point. The EBV is the big driver of If you have Hashimoto's, they may put you on restrictive autoimmune paleo diet, which is not necessary for EBV. And if you don't do groundwork for EBV, your Hashimoto's will not reverse itself. And you can put it in remission if it's driven by EBV just by working on EBV. Or they put you, on restricted diets, which start backfiring. They're not nutritionists. They don't understand that the therapeutic diets are short term. That's not the lifestyle you need long term. That's overly restrictive. And then they may do a detox protocol. They may do, leaky gut protocol and a lot of supplements, rolling them one protocol after the other. So you are in this constant flow of protocols and supplements. And before you know it, you have $3,000 worth of supplements in your kitchen cabinet. You don't have space for them, but maybe you're 20% better. Okay. So these are common pitfalls. You can fall through these cracks even with functional medical doctors and nurse practitioners and NDs, well-willing. doctors that just don't understand the virus. That's the bottom line. So let's back up a little and let's start with the situation when you don't have a doctor and you're looking for one. So you avoid that pitfall. You have two options basically when you're looking for a doctor. You can look for somebody who is an expert in EBV, and that's really hard to find. Maybe it's an expert in Hashimoto's, maybe it's an expert in lupus, maybe it's an expert in autoimmunity, maybe EBV is part of it. If you're lucky enough to find one with expertise in EBV, what I would recommend is interviewing the practice, the doctor. And you can't really do it in person, but you can pick up the phone and call the practice, the clinic, and have a nice conversation with the practice manager, whoever picks up the phone. And if they don't know the answers, if they hesitate, it's a clear indication that this is not something that the doctor really specializes in. It's just black and white. So let's say what is the percentage of the doctor's patients that have EBV? And how long does it take typically for the patient to recover? And, is it a few months, a few years? And then after 5 years, how many of those patients that recovered maintain that recovery in 5 or 10 years? Do they know? Is it majority? Um, how long have they worked with patients with EBV? What kind of things do they use? And the practice manager will be really happy to answer these questions if they know, because the doctor really does that. So I'll give you an example. I had mold illness, and so I didn't want to be my own doctor. I needed a team member to get out of my head. I also needed a prescription for antifungal. I'm not a an advocate of medication, but sometimes it's needed, and this is the time when you really need that to prevent further damage. And so I found somebody online locally. It was a wonderful ND, and it looked really promising. And mold was on the list of things that the doctor does, and it often happens that it is on the list. But I wanted to investigate further. I called the office, and this is what I got. The clinic manager said, "Oh yes, this doctor, she's been working with mold and for years. She's excellent at it. It's great results. So yes, you would be in good hands." That's all I needed to hear. And it happened to be the most brilliant, the most amazing physician I had ever met. It was an honor to get to know her. We had a lot of fun together. Um, so yeah, so remember that what you're looking in a medical doctor or practitioner is partnership and a team approach. It's not above you. You live in your body and you really know more about your body than any of us. So if somebody brushes you off, you fire that person before you even hire them. You have the power to fire and hire. That's how it should be in medicine. And I feel that our community in particular it experiences and suffers so much unnecessary humiliation, and it's part of it is lack of education in medical practice on EBV, the truth about EBV. They don't have time to read medical literature and so on and so forth. But I digress. Let's go back. So there's one risk involved with an expert. So I'm going to tell you what I hear, what I see, and just take it with a grain of salt. Everybody's different. But let's say the way I look at a protocol, if I design a protocol, it has to be something that is well studied in medical literature. And you see here, actually, sorry about that. And it has to work for majority of population. So if I bring a protocol, it just has to deliver in 80% of the cases. It's not something that worked for some people. So let's say some of the experts in a particular protocol, whatever that is, including EBV, maybe people called wounded healers. It's a person that had a chronic illness and they figured out how to heal themselves. And some people literally go into medical practice or medical schooling because of that experience they had, and they want to help everyone else, which is great. However, the risk with it that comes with it is that they may be really overly um, focused on what helped them, and that may not be the 80%. So they may design a protocol because that protocol worked for them. But you want an expert that can discern and has objectivity and created a protocol because it works for majority of patients. So you can distance yourself, and it's well designed because it's backed up by medical literature. And so an example is um, with the medical literature, with what we know, if you do it right, and if you are a physician, you should be able to help your patient recover from EBV within several months. Definitely not an entire year, less than that. And so there was a story, there was a practitioner, there was a doctor that had cured herself from EBV. It took her a long time. It took her 2 years, I think. And so she has a protocol that takes 2 years and so on and so forth. Um, but if I put people through my protocol and in 2 years they wouldn't recover, I would be questioning what I'm doing wrong. I'm missing something. We have to discuss this because 2 years is unnecessary. So that's what I mean. It should be a question of months rather than years, just for EBV. And then the risk is that this person may use a therapy that worked for them, but it's not something that will work for majority. So let's say a prime example is monolaurin or lauricidin. A lot of practitioners use it, and if it worked for somebody, it may work for some people. But if you zoom out and look at a larger population, which is what I'm looking at, monolaurin or lauricidin does not work for 80% of population, more like 20. So yes, it could be hit and miss. So what is the doctor using? What kind of therapies do they use? And the last question I would ask is, will the doctor teach me how to prevent reactivation and how to understand my triggers and how to understand my virus? Because most therapies are focused on killing the pathogens. It's like H. pylori, H. pylori protocol or Candida protocol, or you have staph infection or strep infection. We're going to kill the pathogen and that's it. But the virus is not like that. It will come back if you don't understand it. Okay, so the second option is finding a doctor that is not an expert. And that may be a great choice. You're looking for a team member, you're looking for collaboration. So you're looking for a doctor that is very loving and open-minded and like a human being without the ego in the way. It's like, if I don't know something, I'll let you know. Or if you want to bring me a study to read, I will. Oh, well, that's interesting. I haven't heard about it. Well, let me look at it. Well, do you have any resource for me? Oh, this is an interesting book. Thank you for recommending it. This is a real doctor. For me, that's a keeper. I don't care how little they know about EBV. You both can learn together because I'll present the resources for you that you can share. So it's just about the right attitude and caring, and these are the best doctors in the world. Um, so if the doctor devises a protocol for you and it doesn't work for some reason, you can have conversation, you can change direction, and so on and so forth. The most important part is you do want to bring the right information because with the wonderful doctors, this is the feedback I hear all the time. I love my ND. This is like I'm quoting so many of people in our community. I love my ND. We've been working together on EBV for 2 years, and I'm about 20-25% better. We're still trying to figure it out. So this is the biggest pitfall in the EBV universe because even the well-willing and wonderful doctors that care are having a problem figuring out the protocol that will hit the virus and really turn it down. And so it's kind of like going up and down and up and down. And so if I may suggest, if you have a doctor like that, um, bring my book. The book was designed as a guide, as a reference book all about EBV, but it's also written in part for medical doctors to take it and for clinical nutritionists to take it and work with it with their patients. So I don't advise doing it on your own. I advise in the book, hire somebody, work through the book together, look at the supplements together. Let the doctor design it because they understand nutraceuticals. They understand that I'm asking for high doses. It's important that you work with them so all the supplements are safe. There are contraindications. There are different medications. I can't include it in the book, but the doctor will go over each supplement and all these safety measures to make sure that you're not reactive negatively, you don't over supplement. So that can be really an amazing journey together when you have the right doctor. And you can start the doctor by going to our ebvhelp.com website. It has all the resources. It has an entire page for the physicians. And it also has a page when I have pre-recorded or rather recorded medical conferences that I lectured in. So there are full medical lectures that they can click on and watch and understand the virus. And so we have lots of resources. We also have a program I designed specifically for physicians. It can take them literally one weekend to consume it, get all the resources, get the protocols, and then that doctor can, literally treat you A to Z, know exactly what to do, and have access to me to troubleshoot. So we have created all the resources if you find the right doctor to work with that is not familiar with EBV. And so the biggest challenge for me in this video is it's very hard to find a practitioner that is skilled in this virus, that understands this virus. It's not like any other virus. It's not just supplements. It's really life altering. There's a lot of tentacles. You have to understand the labs. There's a lot of education that you need. It's just not a straightforward virus. So hire, fire. Please don't waste precious time, energy, and money trying to get into the doctor's office just to get tested. You can test tomorrow. As far as I'm concerned, just spend a little money on that lab, get the result, go back to my website or my book, and learn how to interpret those labs. You can absolutely do it. We, in fact, now created a live workshop, or we call it Bring Your Labs. It's about EBV labs. The attendees will bring their labs. I will look at them and we will talk about them. I will explain it. But you really have all the resources, even a video training, like 50 minutes on our website with me and a whiteboard and color markers explaining the labs. So it's all in your hands. So this way, if you already have your labs and you already understand the lab results, then when you're looking for a doctor, you can skip that and you can just be educated and ask the right questions. Like, I know what I have. Here it is. Can you work with me on this virus? So if this is helpful, please put some notes under this video. Let us know that this is helpful. I hope it's going to change the trajectory of your life, the decisions you make, how you proceed, and it's going to help you really big time heal from EBV. Thanks so much, you guys. I'll see you on the next call.